Greetings aspirants. Hope you all are doing well. Welcome to the daily news analysis by CivicCentre IAS, where we try to discuss the important articles from the Hindu, the Indian Express and the PIB from the UPSC CSC prelims perspective. Displayed are the list of topics which we are going to discuss from the Hindu and Indian Express today. The first article says that with the bill to amend the Waqf Act of 1995, which is set to be tabled in Parliament this week, the centre proposes to strip the Waqf board of its powers to declare a property as its own. In this context, let us see about the Waqf board and how is it governed. Firstly, what is a Waqf? See, a Waqf is the property given in the name of God for religious and charitable purposes. In legal terms, permanent dedication by a person professing Islam of any movable or immovable property for any purpose recognized by the Muslim law as pious, religious or charitable. Further, a waqf can be formed through a deed or instrument, or a property can be deemed waqf if it has been used for religious or charitable purposes for a long period of time. Know that a person creating the waqf cannot take back the property and the waqf would be a continuing entity. Further, a non-Muslim can also create a waqf, but the individual must profess Islam and the objective of creating the waqf has to be Islamic. Then, how is a waqf governed? Notably, the waqfs in India are governed by the Waqf Act of 1995. So, what is a waqf board? See, a waqf board is a juristic person with power to acquire and hold the property and also to transfer any such property. Significantly, the board can sue and be sued in a court as it is recognized as a legal entity or juristic person. The next article says that the Finance Bill 2024 was passed in the Lok Sabha on Wednesday with an amendment relaxing a proposal for long-term capital gains tax on real estate. So it allows taxpayers an option to switch to a newer, lower tax rate or stick to the old regime that had a higher rate with indexation benefit. In this context, let us talk about the Finance Bill, then about the capital gains tax, and lastly about indexation. So what is a finance bill? See, according to the Article 219 of the Lok Sabha's Rules of Procedure, a finance bill is defined as the bill that is typically introduced each year to give effect to the Government of India's financial proposals for the upcoming fiscal year, as well as a bill to give effect to the supplementary financial proposals for any period. Further, know that the financial bills are a component of the union budget. Also, there are different kinds of finance bills, like the most important of them is the money bill. Then moving on to talk about the capital gains tax. See, the term capital gains tax can be defined as properties accumulated from the sale of any capital asset. Now, what do you think are these capital assets? Land, buildings, house property, vehicles, patents, trademarks, leasehold rights, machinery, and jewelry are a few examples of capital assets. Further, this includes having rights in or in relation to an Indian company. It also includes the rights of management, control, or any other legal right. Now, depending upon the duration, the capital gains tax can be either short-term or long-term. So, what is short-term capital gains tax? See, any asset that is held for less than 36 months is termed as a short-term asset. But in case of the immovable properties, the duration is 24 months. Hence, the properties generated through the sale of such an asset would be treated as short-term capital gain and would be taxed accordingly. Now, moving on to talk about the long-term capital gains tax. See, any asset that is held for over 36 months is termed as a long-term asset. Further, the assets like preference shares, equities, UTI units, securities, equity-based mutual funds, and zero-coupon bonds are also considered as long-term capital asset if they are held for over a year. Hence, the profits generated through the sale of such an asset would be treated as long-term capital gain and would attract tax accordingly. Know that this tax applies to both individuals as well as the businesses. Lastly, what is indexation? See, indexation is the process of adjusting the original purchase price of an asset or an investment in order to neutralize the impact of the inflation on it. Further, indexation is a method used to adjust the purchase price of an asset to account for inflation over the period it was held. So, this reduces the taxable capital gain as it reflects the increase in the asset's value due to inflation. Know that the purpose of indexation is to ensure that taxpayers are taxed only on the real gains and not on the inflationary increase in the value of the asset. The next article says that the elections to 12 Rajyasabha seats will be held on September 3rd. In this context, let us talk about the various aspects related to it. See, the origin of the Rajyasabha or the second chamber can be traced to the Montague-Chelmsford Report of 1918. Know that it is the upper house of the parliament. See, the Rajya Sabha has a strength of 245 members representing states and union territories including the Delhi and Puducherry. Further, the Rajya Sabha seats are distributed among the states based on their population. For instance, Uttar Pradesh has a quota of 31 Rajya Sabha seats while Goa has just one. Significantly, in contrast to the Lok Sabha elections, where the members are directly elected, the members of the state legislative assemblies choose the Rajya Sabha members through an indirect election system of proportional representation by means of a single transferable vote. Where else do you think the system is used? See, the system is proportional representation through the single transferable vote method is employed in electing the President of India, the Vice President, and the members of the state legislative councils. Notably, this system is also utilized in the city elections in the US, Ireland, and Australia, as well as the select elections in Nepal, Pakistan, and New Zealand. In this system, the voting power of each MLA is determined by the population of their respective constituencies. Further, to be elected as a candidate must secure a specific number of votes known as quotas. Now, how are these quotas derived? See, the quota is determined by dividing the total valid votes by the number of seats available plus 1. In the states with multiple seats, the initial quota is calculated by multiplying the number of MLAs by 100, as each MLA's vote is valued at 100. The next article says that the Union government has announced the first set of Rashtriya Vigyan Puraskar, or the National Awards for Scientists, ever since it controversially cut down the number of such awards in 2022. 33 of these awards slated to be given on August 23rd, which is marked as a National Space Day, to mark the Chandrayaan-3's moon landing. Know that these new set of awards were instituted last year after disbanding all existing science awards, including the much coveted Shanti Swarup Bhatnagar Prize. And Vignan Yuva is a replacement for the Bhatnagar Prize, which too used to be given to outstanding scientists below the 45 years of age. So the Rashtriya Vigyan Puraskar comprises 4 kinds of awards, which are Vigyan Ratna for lifetime achievement, Vigyan Shri for scientists of all ages, Vignan Yuva for the scientists under 45 years of age, Vigyan Team for the collaborative research work. Firstly, the 86-year-old Padmanabhan, a celebrated biochemist who is well known for his work on the malaria parasite, has been named a Vigyan Ratna. Secondly, the Chandrayaan-3 team, which landed the India's first spacecraft on the moon last year, has been honored with the Vigyan Team Award. Next, the scientists chosen for the Vigyan Yuva Puraskar include the Pragya Yadav, who is a senior scientist at the National Institute of Virology, Pune, who was one of the key people in the fight against the COVID-19 pandemic. Among the other winners of the Vigyan Yuva Puraskar were the Vivek Polshettivar of the Tata Institute of Fundamental Research, Mumbai, who is a chemist and who works on the carbon capture technologies among others. Then Urbasi Simha of the Raman Research Institute, Bengaluru, who is one of the India's leading experts in quantum research. And lastly, Roxy Matthew Cole of the Indian Institute of Tropical Meteorology in Pune, who is a well-known climate scientist. Then Annapurni Subramanian is among the 13 scientists selected for the Vigyan Shri Award. Subramaniam, whose main research relates to the information and evolution of the star clusters and galaxies, has worked closely with ISRO on several space projects, including the Aditya L1 mission. Others chosen for the Vigyan Shri include the biologist Jayant Balachandra Yugondar, who is a former director of IISER Pune, who works on proteins, and particle physicist Nabha Kumar Mondal from the Saha Institute of Nuclear Physics in Kolkata, who has served as a project director of the India-based Neutrino Observatory. The next article says that the negotiations for a free trade agreement among the 7-member BIMSTEC grouping of the Bay of Bengal littoral nations and Nepal and Bhutan need to be expeditiously revived, and realistic possibilities like preferential trade agreements could be explored, according to the Commerce Minister Piyush Goyal. at the inaugural BIMSTEC business. So, the Ministry for External Affairs of the Government of India, in association with the Confederation of Indian Industries, hosted the first BIMSTEC Business Summit in New Delhi from 6th August to 8th August 2024. In this context, let us talk about the BIMSTEC. So, the BIMSTEC, which stands for the Bay of Bengal Initiative for the Multi-Sectoral, Technical and Economic Cooperation, in short called the BIMSTEC, is a regional organization that was established on 6 June 1997 with the signing of the Bangkok Declaration. Know that it comprises 7 member states, which are Bangladesh, Bhutan, India, Myanmar, Nepal, Sri Lanka, and Thailand. Now, what significance does it hold for India? So, it allows India to pursue 3 core principles, which are firstly the neighborhood policy, which is the primacy of the country's immediate periphery. Then, secondly, the Act East policy, which connects India with Southeast Asia. And lastly, the economic development of India's northeastern states, which shall be done by linking them to the Bay of Bengal region via Bangladesh and Myanmar. Next, it allows India to counter China's creeping influence in the countries around the Bay of Bengal due to its spread of its Belt and Road Initiative. And lastly, the new platform for India to engage with its neighbors and with South Asian Association for Regional Cooperation becoming dysfunctional because of differences between India and Pakistan. The next article says that the leader of opposition in the Lok Sabha, Mr. Rahul Gandhi, on Wednesday demanded in the House that Wayanad natural disaster causing great loss of life be declared as a national disaster. In this context, let us talk about the various aspects related to it. See, as per the Disaster Management Act of 2005, disaster means a catastrophe, mishap, calamity or grave occurrence in any area which is arising from natural or man-made causes or by accident or negligence, which results in substantial loss of life or human suffering or damage to and destruction of property or damage to or degradation of environment, and is of such a nature or magnitude as to be beyond the coping capacity of the community of the affected area. Further, we can classify them into natural and man-made disasters. So, a natural disaster includes cyclones, tsunami, heat wave, landslides, earthquakes, flood, urban flood, whereas a man-made disaster can be chemical, nuclear or biological. See, there is no provision which is either executive or legal to declare a natural calamity a national calamity. Further, the existing guidelines of the State Disaster Response Fund or the National Disaster Response Fund do not contemplate declaring a disaster as a natural calamity. The next article says that Chattisgarh cleared a long pending proposal to notify a new tiger reserve, which is the third largest in the country, with its tiger population plunging in recent years. In this context, let us see the key highlights of the article. So, going into the article, the Gurudasidas Tamor Pingla Tiger Reserve, which integrates an existing national park with a wildlife sanctuary, is Chhattisgarh's fourth reserve for the big cats. Currently, Chhattisgarh has 3 tiger reserves, which are Indravati in Bijapur district, Udanti Sita Nadi in Gariaband, and Achanapkar in Mungili. Now, how is a proposal given for the tiger reserves? See, to declare an area as a tiger reserve, the state governments can forward their proposals to the National Tiger Conservation Authority. Further, the central government via the National Tiger Conservation Authority, in short called the NTCA, may also advise the state governments to forward a proposal for the creation of tiger reserves. Significantly, Andhra Pradesh's Nagarjuna Sagar Srichailam Tiger Reserve is the country's largest tiger reserve, covering 3,296.31 square kilometers. Then comes the Manas Tiger Reserve in Assam, which is the second largest with an area of 2,837.1 square kilometers. Lastly, the smallest tiger reserve in India is Bor Tiger Reserve of Maharashtra. The next article says that the Union Budget 2024-25 has proposed launching critical mineral mission for domestic production, recycling of critical minerals, and overseas acquisition of critical mineral assets. Know that its mandate will include technology, development, skilled workforce, extended producer responsibility framework, and a suitable financing mechanism. In this context, let us talk more about the critical minerals. See, critical minerals are those minerals which are essential for the economic development and national security of a country. A mineral is labeled as critical when the risk of supply shortage and associated impact on the economy is relatively higher than that of the other raw materials. Notably, the lack of availability of these minerals or even concentration of existence, extraction, or processing of these minerals in few geographical locations may lead to supply chain vulnerability and disruption. Significantly, the critical minerals are the foundation on which the modern technology is built. From solar panels to semiconductors, from wind turbines to advanced batteries for storage and transportation, the world needs critical minerals to build these products. It is no wonder to say that there is no energy transition without the critical minerals, which is why the supply chain resilience has become an increasing priority for major economies. So, India's future economic prosperity will depend on how well we use our vast energy and mineral resources to play our strengths and how well we can adapt to follow the global market shift towards the zero emissions. Know that the government of India has released a list of 30 critical minerals for India. These minerals are antimony, beryllium, bismuth, cobalt, copper, gallium, germanium, graphite, hafnium, indium, lithium, molybdenum, niobium, nickel, PGE, phosphorus, potash, REE, rhenium silicon, strontium, tantalum, tellurium, tin, titanium, tungsten, vanadium, zirconium, selenium, and cadmium. The next article says that the wildfires currently raging in the US and Canada are so intense that they created pyrocumulonimbus clouds, which are also called the fire clouds, are not literally made of flames, but as the thunder clouds, they have the potential to spit out lightning and spark still more fires on the ground. In this context, let us talk more about them. So the pyrocumulonimbus clouds are towering formations formed by the updraft from the incredibly intense fires comparable to the volcanic eruptions, which also cause the phenomenon. Significantly, the development of these clouds has become more frequent in recent years. For instance, just during the last year's extreme wildfire season, 140 pyrocumulonimbus clouds were recorded in Canada alone, well, according to the report. Now, how are these clouds formed? See, they occur only when there is an extremely hot wildfire or volcanic eruptions, and this can also lead to the formation of pyrocumulonimbus clouds. For instance, these clouds were formed during the Australian bushfires of the 2019-20 when the temperatures crossed 800 degrees Celsius. So the intense heat from the fire warms the surrounding air, which moves upward in the atmosphere. Now, as this hot and very buoyant air carrying water vapor, smoke, and ash rises, it expands and cools down. Then, once it is cool enough, the water vapor condenses on ash, forming a grey or brown cloud. Notably, at this stage, the cloud is known as pyrocumulus cloud, also known as the fire cloud. Although the pyrocumulonimbus clouds can produce lighting, they do not generate much rain. As a result, they can spark new wildfires as kilometers away from the main blaze. These clouds can also trigger strong winds that can make the spread of wildfire faster and unpredictable. The last article of the day talks about the Lok Sabha opposition, rising lack of jobs, inflation, and urging the government to bring in 2% wealth tax. In this context, let us talk about the wealth tax in brief. See, the wealth tax in India is defined in the Wealth Tax Act of 1957. So, the wealth tax is a direct tax with the aim to reduce the inequalities of wealth. Know that the wealth tax is levied only on an individual, a Hindu undivided family, or a company. Notably, the persons other than these three categories are not liable to pay a wealth tax. Hence, an individual, a Hindu undivided family, or a company had to pay wealth tax of 1% on earnings of over 30 lakhs per annum. Now, who does this wealth tax apply to, or who has to apply wealth tax, and how is it applied? See, the residential status of an individual was one of the key parameters to ascertain wealth tax liability. So firstly, resident Indians were liable to pay wealth tax on their global assets. However, non-resident Indians and foreigners were liable to pay wealth tax on their assets in India only. Then, if a non-resident Indian returns to India, his assets would be exempt from the wealth tax. Further, the assets acquired by the NRIs within 1 year of their return are also exempt. But significantly, the Wealth Tax Act of 1957 has been ruled out with effect from 1st April 2016. So in today's video, we have talked about 10 articles from the Hindu and Indian Express from the UPSC CSA prelims perspective. We'll be back again tomorrow with another video. Thank you.